Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're making loaded smoked pulled pork nachos. We're going to do something a little different today, and this is going to be a regular video instead of a short. First things first, we need a pork butt. So after we get our pork butt out of the package here, we're going to go ahead and start trimming away at the pork butt fat cap here. Now there's a lot of fat here that's not going to render off, so I'm going to go ahead and trim a lot of this off, as I don't want the rubbery bits into my pulled pork. That won't taste good. So once we get that trimmed down, this is kind of what the final product is going to look like. You can trim as much off as you want. I like a little fat to help render it down. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and create a checkerboard pattern on the fat. And what we're doing right now is creating a hash here to allow the season to penetrate through that fat more and create a nice bark into the meat and season the meat portion. Nice up close shot of that checkerboard pattern in the fat. Next up, in the process of smoking this pork butt, we're going to go ahead and pat dry the entire slab of meat here. We're doing this to get rid of any contaminants that might be left over from the packaging and all that yucky juice. For today's cook though, we're going to be using Meat Church's Honey Hog Barbecue Rub. It's a great rub. Used it plenty of times before, so I'm not going to change it up today. We're going to go ahead and generously season the entire pork butt here to make sure we don't miss an entire spot, as this is a big piece of meat and we want to have the entire thing seasoned to create a nice bark and a good flavor. After we've got the entire pork butt covered and seasoned here, we're going to go ahead and let this rest overnight in the refrigerator. Here it is next morning now. As you can see, the season has adhered to the meat and it's starting to actually sweat. Now we'll go ahead and fill up our water pan for the smoker here. We're going to do mostly water, and then we're going to go ahead and add just a little of apple cider vinegar here to create a nice moist environment in the smoker to prevent the meat from drying out. For today's cook, when we put it on the smoker here, we're going to go ahead and be cooking this at 225 degrees. A nice up close shot of it in the smoker here. For today's smoke, we're going to be using cherry wood chunks by Weber, and an hour into the cook now already, here is what it's starting to look like. You can start seeing this bark form in our color here, and now at that 3-hour mark, we're going to go ahead and spray it down as we got a nice bark, and we don't want that slab of meat to dry out. So we're using apple cider vinegar to spray it. It's not getting a nice mahogany color that I'm looking for, and that bark's looking good. As we fast forward to now that 5-hour point in the smoke, we have all the smoke and the color we need on this slab of meat, and we got a perfect bark. So we're going to go ahead and carefully remove it from the smoker using paper towels to protect the bark. As you can see, I wasn't too careful and I let it slip. We're going to go ahead now, bring it back into the kitchen and wrap it. I'm spraying the tin foil with some apple cider vinegar to help keep it moist and everything, and allow that meat to have a little moisture in there to help tenderize it, to when we put it back into the oven now at 225 degrees to let it continue to cook and tenderize here. So now we're going to be putting it in the oven at 225 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to let this cook probably for about the next 4 hours. After those 4 hours are up, we'll go ahead and remove it out of the oven. After it cooking wrapped for the last 4 hours, now we're going to go ahead and insert a meat temperature thermometer to see if it's temperature probe tender. And I'm checking to see if there's any resistance when I'm putting it in there. It goes in and out like butter, so it's no issue there for me. Now we'll let it rest for about the next hour. After letting it rest now for an hour to allow the pork butt to reabsorb its juices during the cook process here, we're going to go ahead and unwrap it. Once it's unwrapped here, we'll go ahead and try and pull out the pork butt bone here. If it comes out nice and cleanly, it tells you have a nice tender piece of meat. And now it's time for everyone's favorite part, is to get in there with your hands and start shredding your pork. Now, of course, everyone's favorite part when doing this is to have a few taste bites to see how it came out, and I can tell you it was incredible. Now for the nacho portion, we're going to go ahead and add some chips here onto our cooking tray, and then we're going to go ahead and put those in the oven at 250 degrees for about 5 minutes or so to warm them up. Once they're warmed up, we're going to go ahead and add our barbecue sauce here. We'll go ahead and add a little white queso on top of it. Then we're going to go ahead and add a very helpful portion of pulled pork, well, because we just made a ton of it, so we can. Some more barbecue sauce on top of that. We'll add some sour cream with some guacamole and then some pickled jalapenos to give it a little spice. And there you have it. There's our smoked loaded pulled pork nachos here. It's a great recipe. It's fun for family and friends. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, the recipe's in the comments. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.